Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another action figure review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom Roarivores Ankylosaurus. Now, before getting into this video, this is something that I should have brought up in my Dimorphodon review, but basically the way I'm gonna kind of schedule these reviews is not really from when they were released. I'm gonna try to organize, of course, I'm talking about the main Jurassic World line right now. I'm done with the Battle Damage line and the Legacy line, of course. And I, talked about that in my Dimorphodon review. But how I'm going to do things here is I'm not going to, talk about things by release. I'm going to talk about things in which they appeared in the movies by. So, yeah. So, all these dinosaurs that I've reviewed so far appeared in Jurassic World. And I feel like when I review the Real Feel Mosasaurus, I'm going to move on to the dinosaurs from Fallen Kingdom, like the Roarivores Sinoceratops or the Baryonyx or the Chomping Carnotaurus, whatever you want to call that thing. But yeah. Anyway, again, that's something I should have brought up when I reviewed the Dimorphodon, so I apologize for talking about it as late as I am, but yeah. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's get into this. So first, we'll take a look at the painting on this figure. The painting on this figure is good. Not really accurate, but to be honest, accuracy isn't always a good thing. Sometimes originality is something that a figure really needs, and I feel like the original paint here looks nice. Really quick, just to get it out of the way, it would have been nice if the toenails were painted, but they still look nice. But on the top side of the figure here, we have some greenish coloring, which does look nice. Unfortunately, at the horns right here, we do have some paint scuffage. So, yeah, I don't know if I could get that on camera well, but you could kind of see. But, yeah. Anyway, the eyes are painted yellow with black pupils, but on this side we have the same problem as we did on the Triceratops, where a bit of the eye here is bleeding onto the eyelid. It isn't as bad as on the Triceratops, but it's still somewhat noticeable, so yeah. And I've seen that on a lot of Jurassic World figures, unfortunately, so yeah. If you buy one of these figures and it has the same problem, don't be surprised, because that is actually a very common problem, but yeah. Anyway, the underside is painted a very dark shade of brown, almost black, which does look nice. And all of these specs. That one's going in the books, but no, the spikes on the back are painted gray, which look alright. And that's pretty much it for the painting on this figure. Again, the eyes, not really great. It would have been nice if they painted the toenails and even the beak. I feel like the beak could have used some more painting, but yeah. Either way, that's pretty much it for the paint. Still not bad, considering. The painting on this figure is still nice from far away, so the painting on this figure, I'd say gets a pass. And the eye problem isn't as bad as on the Triceratops, but it's still somewhat noticeable, so yeah. Anyway, now we'll take a look at the articulation. And the articulation on this figure is good. I do have one problem, but that's mainly with the sculpt, but we'll talk, the articulation problem does kind of fall into the sculpting problem, but we'll talk about that when we get there, so yeah. Anyway, let's take a closer look. So, of course, the head is on a ball joint, so it can move 360. The front legs can move forwards this much and backwards this much. And same with the other legs. The front legs, unfortunately, can't really move outwards, but the back legs can. So there's always that. And just because I forgot to talk about it earlier, here is the scan code and the new Jurassic World logo. So, yeah. And now for the Roarivores gimmick, there is a button right here, and if you push that, that will cause his tail to move. And he makes some sounds that aren't bad, but some of them don't really fit the Ankylosaurus. So, yeah. That sound kind of fit the Ankylosaurus. I feel like the sounds at the end sounded a lot like the Ankylosaurus from Jurassic World. I guess all that stomping at the beginning could probably be the tail just smashing the ground, but this figure's tail can't really go down, so I don't really know what the point of that is, but yeah. That somewhat fits. We do have kind of a grunt, and then it just kind of walks away. So, there's that. The swinging sound good when it was like swinging its tail, but then it kind of roared, and the Ankylosaurus doesn't really roar. It just kind of grunts, so yeah. That's the same sound as before. These sounds don't really play in any specific order, they just kind of do their own thing. And that was just a roar, and again, Ankylosaurus, at least in Jurassic World, didn't roar, but yeah. But honestly, that's pretty much it for the articulation on this figure. The sounds could have been better. They're not awful, but again, they could have been a little better. But the rest of the articulation on this figure is still nice. And I feel like the spring in the tail here is just a little too weak for me, but other than that, it still looks good, so yeah. Anyway, that is it for the articulation on this figure. The articulation's good, so it gets a pass. Now take a look at the sculpt, and the sculpting here is where kind of some of the issues pop up. We'll talk about that in a second, but one minor nitpick I have with this is that, as you can see here, the back is very flat, which is not the case. In Jurassic World, the back was more rounded, so it's kind of like more like in the air, which wouldn't be a bad thing. In fact, it's not a bad thing. It's, you know, I'm perfectly fine with the way this figure looks as is, but it definitely is kind of a minor thing to point out, mainly because there's a small little, there's a smaller Ankylosaurus figure in the Jurassic World line by Mattel, and its back actually looks proper, so I don't know why, you know, they kind of made the back flat here, but on that figure they made that, you know, how it looked in the movie. But, you know, that's, you know, the back here still looks very nice. But the thing I don't like, this figure is aggressively stanced, and that wouldn't be a problem on quadrupedal animals, because, of course, they can stand fairly well. But, unfortunately, the Roarivores gimmick is, you know, on the back of the body. And if you just keep pushing that, like so... Alright, I kind of pushed it there, kind of pushed it down, but if you keep pushing down the button like so, then eventually the leg does kind of, you know, collapse. So, yeah. Again, if this thing was neutral standing, that wouldn't happen, but unfortunately, yeah. Oh yeah. And that's another thing I forgot to point out. The button does like to get stuck, which is not a good design either, but yeah. Other than the aggressive stance and, you know, the button getting stuck, which, honestly, that wasn't really part of the sculpting problem. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but yeah. The articulation here, the sculpting on this figure is still nice. In terms of, you know, just standing there, it looks nice, but in terms of playability, I feel like, yeah, could have been done a little better, but the sculpting on this figure is still nice, so it gets a pass. Now take a look at the detailing, and the detailing on this figure, again, very good. So we have some very nice detailing on the head. All the scales on top here are detailed very nicely, very well defined, and we do get some fine musculature underneath the neck right here. Going to the top of the back armor, the detailing here looks very nice. Everything here looks well defined, but the spikes themselves don't look great. And the tail is detailed very nicely as well. All the creases and all the spikes and whatnot, it looks good. And even the club tail is detailed very nicely as well. Going to the underside, we have some nice creasing and nice scaling, which looks nice. And the legs have a fair bit of musculature to them as well. And that's pretty much it for the detailing on this figure. And the detailing on this figure, not as good as the Triceratops, but the detailing here is still very nice. So the detailing definitely gets a pass. So at the end of the day, should you get this? It's not the best Ankylosaurus figure that's out there, but it's better than the one by Hasbro, and considering that that one and this Ankylosaurus are the only two main Ankylosaurus from the Jurassic World, or Jurassic Park toy line in general, I feel like that these are still, or at least this figure, this is good. So, yeah. There actually is another version of this figure in the Dino Rivals line. I forget the color scheme, but I believe it's like green or brown or something like that, but yeah. I'd honestly prefer this. The painting on that figure, from what I can recall, is a little bit too chaotic for my likings. This is good. It's not too colorful, but it has enough color to where it looks nice. So, yeah. Definitely get this figure if you can. I don't think it's in stores anymore, but this figure is available on Amazon for 14 bucks. So, honestly, for that price, definitely go for it. So, yeah. Anyway, if you want to know how big this figure is, here it is next to Dr. Billy Grant. Alright, now, really quick, I just want to say, I kind of forgot to point this out, but for a kid, I feel like a kid would like this. As long as the kid doesn't, like, push down on a table or hard surface or anything like that, then the whole, you know, not warping, but the whole collapsing issue shouldn't be a problem. But, yeah, also the button getting stuck. Not a good design, but if you're buying this for collector needs, and if you're just going to buy this to where it just sits on a shelf, then honestly, it'll look good. So, yeah. Anyway, that is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Zack out.